You know, when I was growing up, I was always taught that America was not only the world leader, but that we were the good guys. Now, do we always get everything right? Of course not. But do we try to do the right thing in most cases? I would say so. And there used to be a sense or a moral responsibility that as the wealthiest country in the world, we should help others that might not be as fortunate as us. That's why we established programs like USAID that could show the world that America was full of good and kind people. But over the last 10 years or so, that empathy and that kindness, that seems to have dried up in the MAGA movement. And if they aren't able to see a direct benefit right in front of their eyes, they don't want anything to do with it. And especially in this Trump administration, these conservatives have been cheering on the destruction of USAID, which is arguably one of the better programs America has to offer that does good all around the world on behalf of the American people. And then, you know, they just now brand it as some sort of woke ideology. Somehow being empathetic and trying to help others is a lefty cause. So then you have people like Rachel Campos Duffy trying to say that USAID is just a Democratic slush fund. If you do appreciate the work I do, please do remember to subscribe.
You know, this is it's so fascinating. I mean, as we're unpacking it, people figuring out that USAID was not it was not aid like you would imagine, like we're setting up soup kitchens in Africa or something. That this was really a slush fund for Democrat donors, the Clinton Foundation, George Soros, all these NGOs who have been doing stuff that American people never voted for them to do, but that it was also doing the dirty work of the CIA. And you're right that Congress had the power of the purse. If Congress, and you talk about oversight, if they couldn't get oversight or control of and transparency of the spending, why didn't Congress just say, let's get rid of USAID? Is it that the agency is more powerful than Congress?
These people just don't know what they're talking about. And they are lying to you when they are saying that there was just no oversight over this organization. This is just a conspiracy that they have drummed up to try to sell the American people that the USAID is bad. She's not going to provide any evidence to what she is saying. And then to go on to say that it's just a slush fund for Democratic donors. I mean, how does that even make any sense? Are George Soros and the Clinton Foundation donating to USAID? Or are you saying that they are somehow taking money from USAID to do their own woke bullshit? I mean, what is the argument here? Again, if they can't see a benefit in front of their eyes, they're not interested in even learning about it. Having programs through USAID establishes goodwill all around the world. When we help people fight their HIV outbreaks or the Ebola or different diseases, not only does it help those people, but it also helps Americans. Because if we can stop disease in its tracks, then it doesn't reach our borders. So just because we can't see the benefit doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. That's why it's so disheartening to see all of these people just trying to write this off as some woke agenda. Helping other people is not woke. Showing empathy and kindness is not woke. This is the type of America that I grew up knowing. But because they brand all of this as some woke ideology, and because they are so interested in owning the libs, they are tearing down programs that mean so much to so many people. I mean, here's Megyn Kelly saying that it's just a front organization for more woke ideology. But listen here. She admits she doesn't even know much about the organization.
Let's talk about this USAID thing, because that one's getting really interesting. So I think most Americans had never even heard of this organization, or didn't, if they've heard of it, they didn't know what it does. And I still am not totally up to speed on what it does, but it appears to be a group that is overwhelmingly hard left in terms of its employees and the people we staff it with, and the people that then create these NGOs to which this USAID then gives its money, funneling to various causes that are very woke in many cases, like large LGBTQ and that kind of promotional stuff. The defenders say that's not all what it appears to be, that some of those so-called woke projects in these dicey third world countries are actually fronts for groups that will be democracy checks, that will quietly organize, democratic opposition to tyrants, that kind of thing. So it could be just, blatant manipulation of foreign governments under the auspices of Black Lives Matter. I don't know the truth.
She said, I don't know the truth. I don't even know much about the organization. But I'm willing to go on record to say that we should probably tear it all down because it's probably just a front for a whole bunch of woke shit. I mean, isn't that what she's saying here? And when did, inclusivity become so woke? Do we forget that America is the greatest example of a multicultural democracy, and promoting inclusion and diversity all around the world used to be a worthy cause that Americans cared about? And having USAID staffed up with maybe more Democrats or more people on the left might be because we really value empathy and kindness, and we like to do work for other people. Now, I'm not saying that that doesn't exist on the right wing. Of course, they were probably doing a lot of that in their churches and stuff. But it makes sense. If we are promoting all of these American values, why would we just brand it as woke shit and then just advocate for its destruction? It's because these people are so interested in owning the libs. They've been so successful in dehumanizing anybody who calls themselves liberal that if they can say it's woke, if they can say it's DEI, well, then that just gives them their excuse to tear everything down. But they're really not remembering all of the good work that USAID does. We then have Vivek Ramaswamy saying that, USAID is just a smokescreen for the Democrats.
So Democrats are going to the mattresses over foreign aid. A lot of that foreign aid probably winds up in their pockets. We'll find out more later. When you hear about Politico getting paid by the Biden people $26 million, does that make sense?
Of course it doesn't make sense, and that's part of the point of why it's been so non-transparent, Jesse. The idea of foreign aid, in some sense, I don't think we should be using our taxpayer dollars even to help people in foreign countries when we should be helping our own citizens here at home first. But the irony is it's not even going to help starving children in Africa or poor people in other countries. That's just the smokescreen and the excuse to actually carry out a political agenda through the back door. I think it was shameful that we're finding about state-funded media here in the United States. But I think equally bad is the fact that we're using that USAID, that foreign aid industrial complex, to push progressive ideas, LGBTQIA plus agendas, woke and DEI agendas, onto foreign countries that cause people in those other countries to actually hate the United States for values that most Americans don't even share.
Again, this is just more conspiracies. USAID didn't pay millions of dollars to Politico. That has been refuted over and over and over again. But as long as it's a conspiracy that sounds good and it furthers their agenda, then they're more than willing to glom onto that to try to tear down something that does so much good in the world. And for them to say that, oh, it's pushing all of this stuff that Americans don't share the values of, well, did you guys forget? There was a whole other half of the country that didn't vote for this MAGA nonsense. There's a whole other half of the country that believes in things like diversity, that believes in inclusion, believes in making sure women are free to do and pursue what they want in life instead of being attached to the home in a way that doesn't serve them. These used to be pretty universal American values, and I would argue that they still are. But because this MAGA movement is kind of winning over the culture right now, these people think that, of course, nobody else in this country certainly would have these values, when that is just not true. Again, America used to be that shining beacon on the hill, We have a multicultural democracy that has been so successful, where we learned that diversity was one of our strengths and we harnessed it. And we tried to promote those values around the world. And then to just spin it off as some smokescreen for the Democrats to somehow push a political agenda without providing a lick of evidence that that is actually the case, I just find wild. These people do not have any evidence to show the things that they are claiming. It is conspiracy after conspiracy after conspiracy. And because they are so interested in getting one over on the Dems or the Libs, this is what they do. I'll show you one last clip here. Here's Jesse Waters trying to say that USAID would probably be used to launch a resistance against Trump. Again, with this MAGA victim complex.
USAID, it's a CIA cutout. It's basically like a dark money group that's been caught staging coups across Latin America. They've been kicked out of dozens of countries. They've been funding paramilitary operations, and they got caught. And this is basically a $40 billion slush fund for social justice warriors in permanent Washington to bribe people, staff people at NGOs, and just create hell. And they were probably going to launch the resistance against Trump's second term through this little government super PAC because it was so dark and shady.
Does Jesse Waters want to go down to Africa and talk to the mothers and the children who might not have their medicine that they need to battle HIV? Do they want to go over to the farmers in Bangladesh who are counting on some of that USAID money to make sure their farms were sustainable? We're going to have to do a piece on all of the different good that USAID does, because these people just don't seem to get it. And they don't seem very interested in investigating it at all. They don't seem interested in looking at all of the good all across the world that USAID is actually involved with. Now, am I saying that all of these dollars were spent appropriately and that there's not some waste somewhere that you could find? Of course not. But these people are trying to write off the whole organization as some sort of woke libtard shit because they want a reason to justify what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing. An unelected billionaire going and taking a hatchet to our federal government. And because we can brand this as some sort of woke stuff, well, then you can go ahead and cut that one down too. That is what this boils down to. These people are more interested in owning the libs than they are trying to understand what this organization actually did and all of the good it was involved with around the world. And I find that despicable. I want to live in an America that believes in being the good guy, that believes in empathy and kindness and trying to lift up the little guy. We are the wealthiest country in the world, after all. We should view it as our responsibility to help others. That is the type of America I want to live in. I'm not interested in this super individualistic MAGA bullshit that is super protectionist, that is super unwilling to spend money outside of the United States, even though it derives such great benefit for the American people. So I will leave it there for now. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We have to build something here on the left that can adequately push back and build a new narrative for America that people can believe in. We have to combat whatever we just saw here. So if you do appreciate the work I do, please do remember to subscribe. If you want to see the White House's latest exercise in propaganda as an unelected billionaire took questions like nothing happened, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.